The 17 News at Sunrise podcast is brought to you by Clinica Sierra Vista.
Welcome back to the 17 News at Sunrise podcast, where we share your news on your schedule.
Working in the spirit of the Golden Empire, this is 17 News at Sunrise.
And good morning here at 5 a.m. Thanks for waking up with us. I'm Maddie Jansen, Elena Rusk in this morning for Alex. Now we start with that fast-moving brush fire that broke out in Los Angeles County yesterday near Castaic. The fire forced evacuations in the area and closed the 5 freeway. As of this morning, I-5 North is open, but the southbound lanes are still closed. 8 firefighters suffered heat-related injuries while battling the flames, and 6 had to be taken to the hospital. Officials, though, say they are in good condition. Unfortunately, though, officials expect more of those heat-related injuries today, and they want Labor Day travelers to take it easy as well.
You can imagine, wearing heavy firefighting gear, carrying packs, dragging hose, swinging tools. The folks out there are just taking a beating.
The Angeles National Forest moved from high to very high fire danger about 2 weeks ago, and there's good reason for that. So just be very, very cognizant if you're out there recreating, traveling, using the public lands.
At last check, flames had burned more than 4,600 acres, and there was no containment. The cause of this fire is under investigation. The blaze is burning as a heat wave with record-breaking temperatures hits the West. Crews say they expect more fires across the state in the coming days.
And this latest fire coming as blistering heat wave bears down on California, prompting state power officials to issue a flex alert for today. During a flex alert, people are asked to avoid using major appliances and turn off unnecessary lights, especially between the hours of 4 p.m. and 9 p.m. The independent system operator says reducing energy use stabilizes the power grid and may prevent unwanted power outages.
Flex Alert's just an opportunity to elevate a consciousness for all of us to prepare to enter into this week and to work our way through what will be perhaps the most challenging 2 days, and that's Sunday and Monday.
Now, meanwhile, more than 3,500 customers in East Bakersfield were without power last night, but PG&E saying it was related to an equipment problem, not an outage that was intentional because of the heat.
And lakes were disappearing in Bakersfield due to the state's mega drought. Bakersfield teamed up with QK Inc., a service firm located in Bakersfield. QK's purpose was to advise the city on how to save some of the wildlife at Truxton Lake. But QK advised the city to do nothing about the more than 50 turtles in the lake, and the city agreed, condemning the turtles to death. The lakes at the park at Riverwalk are next, and people want the wildlife and turtles to be saved.
I don't want wildlife to die. Making a due diligent effort to save the turtles would be nice.
They need to rescue the turtles. You can't just establish this and get all the wildlife going and then pull the plug. They don't know what to do. This is their home. It's not right.
The city of Bakersfield released a statement saying it is exploring options at both the state and federal level to see what actions can be taken regarding the red-eared slider turtles, which are not indigenous to the lake.
Well, now to your 17 Court Watch. A man who forced his ex-girlfriend to take pills to induce a miscarriage was sentenced yesterday for the crime. In December 2019, the woman told police Jagmeet Sandhu entered her home and held a gun on her while forcing her to take pills to end her pregnancy. She said she had broken up with Sandhu 3 weeks earlier because he kept pressuring her to have an abortion. During an interview with police, Sandhu said he comes from a traditional Punjabi family who was, quote, very upset he impregnated the woman, who was only described as non-Indian, according to court documents. Earlier this month, Sandhu pleaded no contest to a charge of involuntary manslaughter, while other charges, including first-degree murder, were dismissed. Sandhu will spend a year in jail and 3 years probation for the crime. He also must complete 100 hours of community service and a 1-year domestic violence program.
5:06 is your time now in your 17 Crime Watch. A suspected car thief ended up soaking wet after allegedly leading police officers on a chase. The pursuit started at Niles Street and Beale Avenue around 8:20 last night. It came to an end here when the suspect crashed through a fence and the vehicle went into a canal at 30th Street and Union Avenue. The suspect was helped out of the canal, then placed under arrest. He was taken to the hospital to be checked out as a precaution.
And a person suspected of firing shots outside a Lowe's store in South Bakersfield was taken into custody last night. Officers say they were called to the Lowe's at 6200 Colony Street around 6:30 for a report of shots fired there. When they got there, they couldn't find a victim, but say they followed a vehicle that was possibly involved. Officers say that driver went onto the 99, making a stop at the Airport Drive exit. That person then taken into custody. No other information is immediately available.
5:07 is your time now. A man's been arrested in connection to a shooting in Lost Hills that left one man dead and another in critical condition. Deputies were called to the scene of the shooting on Lamberson Avenue in Lost Hills around 11 p.m. Tuesday night. Two men were suffering from gunshot wounds. 34-year-old Ulysses Avalos was pronounced dead at the scene. The second victim was airlifted to the hospital and is in critical condition. The Kern County Sheriff's Office arrested 30-year-old Marco Antonio Aldaco Jr. yesterday morning in Wasco. Officials say he's been charged with homicide, attempted homicide, and various weapons violations. Anyone with information is asked to call KCSO at 861-3110.
With some sports news, as football returns to Bakersfield College and high schools across the valley, two programs are keeping a legend in their thoughts. Dallas Grider's presence still felt around the county, on the football field and off of it. 17's Chris Burton has the story.
When the Renegades open their season on Saturday, they'll take the field under a shadow belonging to Dallas Grider. Large in stature and in legacy, the longtime Bakersfield College coach who passed away in May.
The Grider name is synonymous with BC football.
But Grider was more than a coach, more than his 20 total years on the Renegade staff, and more than his decade and a half at West High School. His true impact lies in the heart of Kenny Calvin and the hundreds and hundreds of others he coached and taught.
He was one of the people that believed in me and put me in a position to believe in myself.
There was winning. Oh, was there winning. 75 victories at BC, including a junior college national championship in 1988. 77 at West High, including 3 Valley championships. To play on Grider's team, says former Renegade and current BC assistant coach Carl Dean, was to understand that legacy.
People would talk about it. People would talk about him and the teams that he had.
But the records weren't everything. A measure on next week's Kern High School District Board agenda moves to name West High's football field the Dallas Grider Field. Grider, who taught at West while coaching, will be remembered for both.
I know Coach Grider would probably kind of scoff at it. He probably thought, oh, that's not necessary. But you know, we all get to leave our mark in something. And you know, for him, it was football, and for him, it was impacting young men. And through the process of coaching and teaching at West High, he impacted a lot of young men and had a lot of success.
Chris Burton, 17 News.
All right, more on this extreme heat. Farmers across California doing what they can to prepare for this fourth heat wave of the season as we are now officially underway. They're taking precautions, including adding more water supplies and keeping both crops and employees safe. Heat-related protocols are all being checked, making sure workers are properly trained on required safety programs. More safety measures include additional rest periods and increasing shading structures on fields.
Well, those who have to work outside in this summer heat face the risk of heat-related illness or worse. 17's Christian Galeno has some life-saving advice from those who are in the trenches during this triple-digit heat.
Day in and day out, Pablo Tapia ensures that the playgrounds at the more than 50 Bakersfield city parks are in tip-top shape. From manicuring the lawns to ensuring the sandboxes are clear of debris or anything that can breed bacteria and cause a hazard for children who enjoy the playground. Tapia needs to keep his own safety in mind as the heat wave heads into town. Hydrating is the most important thing for Tapia. The moment he wakes up, he begins to drink water, avoiding any kind of caffeinated drinks that can dehydrate him during this arduous workday. A crucial tip for Frank Rodriguez, a volunteer with the Bakersfield Shoe Crew, helping to refurbish horseshoe pits ahead of a statewide championship Saturday.
Right now what we're doing is we're preparing the pits.
Heat exhaustion and heat stroke are two of the leading causes of injury or even death during heat waves.
And numbers from the Bureau of Labor Statistics indicate that between 1992 and 2017, around 815 workers died due to heat stress. Over 70,000 were injured due to these conditions. And now politicians are pushing for federal protections to protect these workers.
If you are feeling faint or dizzy, experiencing heavy sweating, nausea, vomiting, or muscle cramps, you might be suffering heat exhaustion. You need to get indoors where there is AC, drink water, and use a cold compress. Having headaches, body temps upwards of 103, strong pulse or loss of consciousness signals towards heat stroke. You must call 911 immediately, as this can turn deadly.
But we're staying hydrated, drinking plenty of water, and got out here early in the morning, and we're pretty much finishing it up for the day.
For 17 News, I'm Christian Galeno.
All right, 17 News, your local election headquarters, and a series of community education workshops are being held over the next several weeks as county officials engage the public on a 1-cent sales tax increase. The local control tax measure is one way to offset revenue losses to the county as property taxes from the oil and gas industry continue to decline. Recent surveys of voters in unincorporated Kern areas show strong support for maintaining and improving vital public safety services like emergency response, crime prevention, and homelessness. But if you'd like to learn more, the next workshop on public safety vital services measure is set for 6:30 this evening at the Taft Oil Dorado Room. Let's say that 3 times fast. The public encouraged to attend, of course. The next workshop's taking place in Pine Mountain Club on September 7th and Bear Valley Springs on the 8th.
Your time now is 5:38 and making news around the state. California lawmakers were working late last night trying to beat the deadline to send legislation to the governor's desk. Key bills made their way through the Senate overnight, including a bill that appears to give Governor Newsom a major win for his climate agenda. Senate Bill 1137 looks to ban new oil and gas drilling at least 3,200 feet from homes, schools, and parks. Following a passionate debate, the bill narrowly passed and is now waiting for the governor's signature. The Assembly also passed climate legislation. AB 1279 calls for the state to be carbon neutral by 2045.
The world needs to reach net zero greenhouse gas emissions by mid-century, or we will not be able to save our planet.
Another proposal aimed at keeping the Diablo Canyon nuclear power plant in San Luis Obispo open now rests in the hands of the governor after state lawmakers overnight approved the proposal to keep the plant open longer than initially planned. The 17 News at Sunrise podcast is a production of KGET and Nexstar Media Group. For more on all of the headlines in today's show, head to kget.com.